The success of Rutherglen in Scotland for Labour doesn't necessarily mean, as Keir Starmer says, quoting Michael Caine, it blew the doors off. It does mean that the SNP is significantly weaker. Now, Humza Yousaf says that this is all on his own shoulders. I don't think so. I think this is a result of his predecessor, and Humza is simply picking up the bad package that she left behind, like a dog walker who hasn't taken a bag. And Starmer says, because we've changed, we are now the party of change here in Scotland. We're the party of change in Britain, the party of change right across the country. I think he's right that Labour has become the party of credibility. I don't think it's actually anything to do with Labour. I think it's to do with the failure of the Conservative Party and the failure of the SNP. You only have to look at Keir Starmer, and you only have to look at what he says, that frankly he is reacting to the disaster around him rather than manufacturing anything that an electorate can pick up. He is going to win by default rather than win on his own merits, I suggest. The Rutherglen by-election was a result of Margaret Ferrier, the friend of Nicola Sturgeon, the person who went backwards and forwards on the train, covered in COVID. She was like one of those characters at the end of a Dracula film. What was it now? What was it? Satanic Rites of Dracula or something, where he sent out the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse to infect the world. That was what Margaret Ferrier was. She was one of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, and she has successfully, I suggest, sealed the doom of the SNP. And it's got nothing to do with the revival in the Labour Party. It's got to do with the failure in the SNP. Sir John Curtis has said that if Labour's performance was replicated across Scotland in a general election, the party would win 42 seats in Scotland, having dropped to just 1 before this election on Thursday. The Labour Party would be able to justifiably claim that this is a kind of result that suggests it is potentially capable of winning seats again in Scotland. This would be magnificent. I hope for a revival of the Labour Party, of the Conservative Party. I hope for an opportunity for serious debate again, because when you have a one-party system, debate disappears. And what we actually need in order to face a future of great uncertainty is serious and informed debate. Humza said the circumstances of this by-election were always going to be difficult, and his party and he are going to reflect on what is needed to regain voters' trust in Rutherglen. We lost the seat in 2017, and like 2019, we can win this seat back, he wrote on Twitter. But I think he's over-optimistic. I don't think that seat is for the taking again. I think it's now in Labour's hands, and Labour's successful candidate would do well to hold on to it. And, it's not just Margaret Ferrier. There's plenty of problems. Fergus Ewing, Peter Murrell, Nicola Sturgeon herself. This is the problems with the SNP, a failing party that's been in power for too long and has had very little challenge from other parties. The same sort of problem has occurred in England under the Conservatives, a party in power for too long with very little challenge, with a sort of lunatic opposition that actually still hasn't really got its act together, and that presages some anxiety, some concerns about what's going to happen when they get into power. But people, when they are presented with the key to number 10, often turn out to be significantly better than one could ever have expected. But our fingers are crossed and we hope for the best from Sir Keir Starmer and from his cabinet. And it's the lack of a coherent shadow cabinet which is perhaps the biggest problem. You just don't see you see Keir Starmer as a prime minister in waiting, but you don't see the shadow cabinet as a shadow cabinet in waiting yet. But there's a few more months to go before we get there, and as I say, the events can change and people can change. But this is a prime example of a government losing an election rather than of the opposition winning one.